The Sims 2 has over 30 different lifetime wants for your Sims to strive for. However, it looks like the career-oriented ones are the easiest to achieve. All your Sims need to do is to work on their skills and make around 10 family friends, which isn't that hard to do, especially if you have multiple Sims living in the same household. But what if your Sim rolled some of the tricky ones? Are they even worth the effort? Greetings to everyone! My name is Nadia and you're on my channel called Baddie Neddy. The first video I uploaded this year was "Can you get a top-level business with a single Sim in The Sims 2?" and it basically proved that own 5 top-level businesses lifetime want wasn't achievable without using the elixir of life. This time I decided to see how achievable the woohoo with 20 different Sims and the have 20 simultaneous lovers lifetime wants are. I'm going to check them both at the same time because they are very similar. Both require 70 and above lifetime relationship score and both involve the risk of getting caught cheating in the process. So let's get started. But before I'd even chosen a neighborhood to play in, I was stopped by a sudden question in my head. Are there enough Sims to woohoo with in the base game hoods? And turns out that question was valid. Thanks to the Sims wiki, I calculated all the adult and elder Sims that you can interact with and got some not so promising results. I didn't calculate the drivers as they are impossible to interact with and trying it can possibly corrupt your neighborhood. I also didn't calculate the teenagers as the woohoo interaction is not available for them without mods and also because to make, let's say, Oberon Summer Dream woohoo with Juliet Cap, you need to age her up first, which means that some rotational gameplay must be involved and not everyone is playing the neighborhoods rotationally. Anyway, here is the representation of the calculations. As you can see, if your Sim isn't bisexual, they'll absolutely have to woohoo with the service Sims, such as maids, bartenders and police officers, because there aren't enough playable Sims and townies of that one gender your straight or gay Sims might be into. For example, if Herboldy from Pleasantview gets his have 20 simultaneous lovers lifetime want, he can romance 6 playable female Sims, because the 7th one is his daughter Mary Sue, and 9 female townies, which means that he'll have to get a maid and a gardener, order pizza at least once to meet the delivery girl, litter up the house to get roaches and call the exterminator, and hope that his wife Coral burns their dinner to make a beautiful female firefighter appear on their lot. Sounds pretty challenging, right? Especially for Herboldy, who is a married and broke elderly man getting close to his deathbed. But even if we played someone younger, it wouldn't be much easier because 1. Sometimes you can't control your service Sim's gender. Here you can see Herb trying to get a female maid, but it's Remington Harris who answers first. Herb pretends to have changed his mind, but calls back immediately, and voila, he is getting Kaylin Langera. Unfortunately, this trick can be played with burglars, firefighters, mail carriers and police officers. Their gender will always be random. Of course, you can make your Sim order services they don't need, but then your Sim probably should be wealthy. 2. You can easily come across a situation where your Sim works the same hours as their newly hired maid, for example, so the latter will leave before your Sim comes back from work to meet them. Imagine that you are playing in Veronaville, where we only have 15 male and 14 female Sims without NPCs. Your Sim works mornings, so they can't meet their maid, gardener and mail carrier. They are left with repairmen, exterminators, bartenders and 2 types of delivery Sims. If your Sim is a straight female or a gay male, congratulations! You have 20 potential lovers without the need of waiting for a burglar. If your Sim is a lesbian or a straight male, however, you'll probably have to call the police station and get fined by a police officer, who by the way can turn out to be male. What I'm trying to say here is that these lifetime wants were barely achievable in the base game if your Sim wasn't bi. They literally had to meet all the Sims of one particular gender that lived in their neighborhood. And yes, I know what you were possibly thinking all this time. The lifetime want feature wasn't even present in the base game, it was only introduced in the University expansion pack. Well, you're absolutely right, but it hardly changes anything for the poor romance aspiration Sims from the base game hoods. You might have noticed that yourself. The University sub-hoods are sort of isolated, that's why you never see any students on community lots in your main hoods, and that's why your main hood Sims cannot go to any community lots in the University sub-hoods. You can see here that Don Lothario can only go to lots in Pleasant View and Bluewater Village, in spite of the fact that the Sim State Uni is also attached to this version of Pleasant View. This means again that some rotational gameplay must be involved to make, let's say, the Sim State University pre-mades move to Pleasant View, and you already know, not everyone is playing rotationally. So now let's check how much time it will take to fulfill the lifetime wants in question if you have some other expansion packs. We'll also talk about the charisma skill that is supposedly helping your Sims to build their relationships. Here is the main part of the experiment. I decided to conduct it in Strangetown because I didn't want to be called a Pleasant View obsessed simmer. By the way, you'll be surprised, but the neighborhood that I played in the most was River Blossom Hills. I also wanted the experiment to be a little bit more challenging. I mean, I know who the Pleasant View romance aspiration townies are, but I know nothing about Strangetown ones. I barely played in this neighborhood. So I created two twin brothers, Pal Womanizio and Bro Womanizio. You can easily tell who inspired me to give them such names. Anyway, Pal and Bro are completely identical. They have the same romance aspirations, the same personality points and star signs, the same turn-ons and the same turn-off. They're only different when it comes to hairstyles and t-shirt colors. But neither of them has any facial hair, glasses or makeup on. I made them so identical because they are going to date the same female Sims, but one of them is going to work on his charisma skill, so we can tell if it really helps. But the moment I loaded the brothers' lot, I realized they weren't as identical as I'd thought. Their interests got randomized and they started arguing over something. With the help of the cheat magic, I made their interests identical too and sent Bro to the mirror to practice his speech. To be honest, guys, I did want to show the entire experiment to you, but when I wrote the script that consisted of small summaries of every sim day, it turns out that the video would last for about 50 minutes, and I didn't want to torture you the way I tortured myself while I was going through the experiment. So I will only share with you the key points and the findings that I made during it. First, let's talk about the rules. I didn't use any mods that influence the relationships between Sims. No ACR, no mods that remove jealousy. Sims could get jealous in my experiment, which can be proven by this scene. By the way, that was the only occurrence of the got caught cheating scene in my experiment. I don't know how, but I managed to escape the worst. Pal and Bro remained bros through the entirety of the experiment. None of their girlfriends caught them either. As you can see, there were several instances where they could have been seen, but I don't know, maybe I was just lucky. But jealousy was working, you can be 100% sure. The second rule was not to use any aspiration benefits, because not everyone has the free time expansion pack, and I do think that they're quite cheaty. So there wasn't any massive attraction for Pal and Bro, and they mostly had only one bolt of chemistry with their lovers. There weren't any useful walk-bys either. And actually I was trying to avoid greeting the passers-by because I was testing Bro's charisma, and for that I needed both brothers to greet the same lady. But you can greet a sim on your home lot when one of your household members has already greeted them. The third rule was not to have any dates on community lots. Well, honestly, I didn't organize any official dates for Pal and Bro at all. I figured out that I was already taking enough risk having both brothers date the same Sims. I decided not to make it any riskier because in that case Bro, who had the have 20 simultaneous lovers lifetime want, might never achieve it. Because my Sims didn't have any official dates, I mean the invite out on date interaction, I gave Pal and Bro jobs. If they had had official dates from the Nightlife expansion pack, they could have lived off their lovers. They could have been selling the bouquets, the gifts, but as they didn't have such dates, they needed a way to provide for themselves. Yes, it was taking half of their time, but it made the experiment more challenging and realistic. Some of the romance aspiration pre-mades in The Sims 2 are employed as well, so I was basically checking if Daniel Pleasant, for example, could woohoo with 20 different Sims. And the final rule concerns the usage of the Community Time Project mod. I'd been using it in my business experiment and I decided to use it again. Perhaps the original time system could have helped to fulfill their own 5 top-level businesses lifetime want, but I think it would have only complicated this experiment. I mean, when your Sim's sleeping pattern isn't reasonable, it's not a problem for businesses, they can operate at any time of the day. But the original time system would have made the guys sleepy after their visits to the community lots, and they would have to invite their girlfriends over only late at night, which would have annoyed the ladies a lot. Now let's go through the findings that I made. They come in 2 types, romance-related and charisma-related. I'm going to start with the romance-related ones. Finding number 1 concerns all kinds of lifetime wants, not only the romance aspiration ones. You'll hardly go anywhere with your Sim's lifetime want if their living conditions aren't good enough. The womanizers had the cheapest furniture at the start of the experiment, so Pal got sick with the flu literally on the 2nd day after he returned from work. As a result, he couldn't flirt with as many ladies as his brother because of his knee decay. The disease slowed him down significantly, and who knows, he might have even died if I hadn't made his brother do everything for him. Overall, their needs panels weren't doing great at the beginning, and this often caused the brothers to delay their woohoos because their energy or comfort were too low. After I'd bought some better furniture for them, the situation improved a lot. For example, Bro woohooed with his second half of the ladies almost 2 times quicker than he woohooed with his first half of the ladies because of his good mood. That's how important the living conditions are. Finding number 2. It's not that easy to find right Sims. Most of the times when Pal and Bro were visiting community lots to meet some new ladies, there were only male Sims and teenagers. Even if there was a lady, she was someone they'd already woohooed with, like Tiffany Zarubin here. As a result, the guys had to lose their time walking from lot to lot. This finding proves my take on the lack of adult Sims in the base game neighborhoods. You can, for example, woohoo with all of the playable Sims and all of the townies but one, and never meet that remaining townie at all. I spent a lot of days playing Pal and Bro and never saw Bella Goth even once. Maybe I was looking in the opposite direction while she was passing by, maybe there was a woohoo cutscene playing at that moment. It doesn't change the fact that it is hard to catch the right Sims. I spotted Crystal Wu on the womanizer lot only once, and she was already disappearing from it. Finding number 3. Sims that work on community lots can never be reached through the phone. On the 11th day, Pal and Bro spent several hours chatting with the Blue Water Village salon workers, only to find out that it was impossible to call them back. Strangely enough, they can call your Sims, and one of them literally saved Bro's skin by calling Pal while Bro was woohooing with his ex. Finding number 4. The number of romantic interactions is limited for the service Sims, which makes it harder to romance them, because you can choose something that is too hard and get rejected, like Pal here. Finding number 5. Your Sims' working hours play a significant role in their romantic life. For example, I had to change Pal's job on the 9th day because he and Bro had very similar timetables and couldn't invite each other's ex-girlfriends over. The working hours also became a problem at the very end of the experiment, when Pel's last lady was only available in the evening when Bro, who had already woohooed with her, was at home. Pel had to use his vacation day to invite her over early in the morning and finish the experiment, but he lost a couple of days trying to reach her. Speaking of time, as you already know, Pel and Bro were finishing the experiment as elders, and I need to say that it was a little bit harder because, finding number 6, their sleeping pattern became unpredictable and unstable. This especially influenced Bro, who worked later than Pel and returned home exhausted after waking up at 4 a.m. when it wasn't necessary. Pel, who worked early in the morning, could get some sleep after work and call the ladies in the evening when everybody was at home, but Bro had to sleep through the most active hours. Finding number 7. You shouldn't keep your lovers outside for longer than 1 hour in summertime if you don't want them to get sunburned and disappear for several days. Same goes for freezing them in winter, of course. Anyway, here's what happened to me during the experiment. Bro was flirting with Erin Beaker outside when she suddenly went red and walked home even after Bro had invited her in. When he invited her over the next day, she did come but went away immediately, sweating like crazy. I thought we'd lost her forever, but luckily she reappeared on the womanizer slot as a passerby almost a week later when it was already fall. Overall, it took Pel Womanizer 37 days to fulfill his lifetime want to woohoo with 20 different Sims. However, I could have ended the experiment 2 days earlier by making Bro, who had fulfilled his lifetime want that day, woohoo with his 20th lady before his brother's eyes. The experiment could have lasted even less if Pel had passed away because of the flu, letting his Bro invite the ladies over at the most convenient hours. And of course it could have been even shorter if Bro hadn't worked but lived off his lovers. I think it would have lasted for about 25 days, because Bro would have still needed to look for ladies, take care of his needs, track his lover's working hours, and most likely he wouldn't have bought all this good furniture so quickly, as most Sims only bring cheap bouquets instead of expensive gifts after dates. So yes, the woohoo with 20 different Sims and the have 20 simultaneous lovers lifetime wants are definitely achievable without the usage of the elixir of life. But I definitely wouldn't recommend to try to fulfill this lifetime wants, because the gameplay becomes so dull and repetitive. Honestly, I got bored and annoyed even before Pel and Bro had woohooed with their 10th partner. I believe the perfect sim to fulfill this lifetime wants is… no, not Don Lothario. He is given a head start, that's true, but his long working hours hardly let him meet any new girls. And if he marries Cassandra and quits his job, he'll be at risk of getting caught cheating. The sim I'm talking about is Rip Grant from Strange Town. The adult version of him, of course. First of all, he is considered bisexual by the majority of Simmers, and as you already know, this makes the search of a new partner a lot easier. Second, he can stay at his father's house after he becomes an adult and let his father and older brother bring home the bacon while he'll sleep around from morning till night. Also, the gameplay won't be as repetitive because you'll have 3 more Sims who have different aspirations and lifestyles in the same house. And finally, General Buzz and Tank don't have any romantic interests at the start of the game, and if you don't change this yourself, there won't be any jealousy-related scandals. Now let's go through the findings that concern the charisma skill. I'm going to jump straight into it and say that the charisma skill doesn't influence your Sims relationships in The Sims 2. Actually, I'd already known that even before I started the experiment. I've been playing this game for 15 years and I've never noticed that the charisma skill influenced anything. But as there are still plenty of Simmers convinced that the charisma skill is useful for making friends and selling stuff in your Sims business, I decided to get some proofs for you. By the way, this February, Marty Core and April Black released a video where they shared the results of their deep dive into the Sims 2 skills system. They did say that the charisma skill was useless, but I'd got the idea of making this video before I saw theirs, and I wanted to see everything with my own eyes anyway. So here is what I did. I made Bro, who was working on his charisma skill, and his identical but not charismatic twin brother greet the same ladies on community lots. As you can see, the starting relationship score was often higher for uncharismatic pal. Now I regret that I wasn't checking the relationship score for the ladies they were greeting. It could have possibly given us some interesting hints too. Anyway, when I first saw that Bro was less successful in his greet interactions, I decided to check if the brothers were still identical. And to my biggest surprise, I found that our Sims interests change with the time. I have always been sure that the only thing that can influence Sims' interest points is reading different kinds of magazines. But it turned out that after one Sim week, Pal, who was responsible for cooking and exercised a couple of times for his first job in the athletic career, got a couple of additional interest points in food and health. Same for Bro, who stargazed to get some logic skill and watched TV more often. His interest in sci-fi and culture grew. As later I was cheating the brothers' interests every time they were about to greet somebody, I can be 100% sure that the interest points have nothing to do with the first impression. But I got so intrigued by the interest points that I believe they are going to be the topic of my next experimental video. But that's all I wanted to say in this one. Write in the comments if any of your Sims have ever fulfilled the biggest romance aspiration lifetime wants. Also let me know if you'll be interested in a video about interests in The Sims 2. Thank you all very much for watching. See you next time.